So, Marcus, thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to have a little chat with you about your particular experience of burnout because I think it's really useful for the listener to have somebody live and real on this podcast. So, thank you for joining us today. So, I just want to ask you, what happened for you? How did you know that you were burning out? What were the signs for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that I kind of had was not really understanding what burnout was. I kind of felt stressed and I felt like I was in this position of just not thinking straight. But it was only until I kind of took a step back and really figured out there's something fundamentally wrong here. I'm not performing the way that I should, both at work and both personally. And I kind of said to myself, there's got to be something wrong. Let me go and figure out what it is. And it was only until I really kind of sat down. I took some advice from our employment team and said, "Hey, look, go and call one of these services and have a conversation with them." And we've got a fully supportive business around mental health and around around the support for the well-being of the staff. And so I gave them a call, and they said, "Hey, look, the symptoms just show as burnout." And I was like, "Wow, what is burnout?" I didn't really understand what it was. Didn't really take it seriously. It was kind of a typical guy was just going, "Hey, look, I'm just stressed. I can carry on. I'm resilient. Should be able to get past this stage." But it was only until then I was like, actually, burnout and all of these symptoms that I've been feeling, which is numb, brain fog, um, feeling like I've just got to attack the next thing, feeling like I've got to continue to survive rather than take a step back and really figure out what's going on. It was all coming through, and I think that was the kind of key milestone in this whole process, was just diagnosing exactly what it was. Because I think if I just kept on saying it was stress or um, or just, hey, there's a problems and I'm going to be able to get over it, I don't think I would have certainly recovered as quickly as I would have as I have done. And so recognizing burnout as the early stage, or at least quite a late stage in my scenario, was hugely important. And so yeah, there was feelings of being numb and not being present. I wasn't present in family events. I was looking at an Excel spreadsheet rather than at my child. So there was loads of stuff that were going on that kind of just didn't feel right. And I think that was my kind of key recognized point. Socializing as well, I started to avoid social events, which was totally unlike me. It was, hey, let's just go and do our own thing for a weekend, or avoiding the office because I feel like I've got too much on. So yeah, quite a lot of stuff that I kind of look back and go, yeah, that was an easy, I should have really easily recognized that was something that was not right. And I look back at them now and go, how stupid of me. Should have picked up on that way earlier, but obviously didn't.
Well, I think it's quite common that when we get into this, you just can't see the wood for the trees, and when you're in the battle, you can't have the perspective. I think one of the interesting points you made there was around just knowing the difference between this is just stress day after day to there is a bigger picture problem here. There's a huge barrier in my way, which is this burnout thing. And also interesting that you said that you weren't really aware of what it was, because I suppose in my world, and doing what I do, I just think everybody knows what burnout is, but
Yeah,
they don't, and it's
yeah.
and unless you know the signs, unless you know the ways out, you won't find your way out of this maze, will you?
Yeah, I think I've not experienced it. I've been in a high stress environment, should we say? I work in operations and supply chain, and
Hmm.
the last 4 or 5 years haven't been easy, should we say? And so there are pressures, but I think the one thing is that I'm still at a very young age, or feel like a very young age, that not many people talk about burnout or stress, and you're very much, it feels very much still like a taboo subject. Mental health, I guess, in the men's space is still very much a non-talked about subject. And so, yeah, for me to kind of go, actually, yeah, something's not right, and it is mental health. I've never really taken it seriously because I just didn't think it would ever impact me until this kind of point. So, yeah. eye opener for me, for sure.
Yeah, I understand that point, Marcus, around sort of life stage as well. I mean, you obviously are in a very high pressure environment. Supply chain in this day and age has just not
Mm.
been easy since COVID, has it really? It's just there's always been something going on, and there's always the environment around us. It is interesting though, because I've spoken to quite a few people in their 20s as well who feel this sense of burnout as well. And I don't know whether there's, you mentioned your own resilience. I don't know whether there is a lack of resilience in this generation coming through now. I don't know, hard to tell. Don't have enough evidence for that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I
I'm sure
think
it's
it's
another podcast at some point for sure.
very much so indeed. You could go on forever with this. So you've talked about your recognizing your symptoms. It's interesting you've had quite a kind of variation between or a combination of mind and body, talking about feeling numb. So when you talk about feeling numb, could you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think I've got a 2-year-old, which has been an incredibly life-changing event, both well, personally for sure, and trying to juggle, I guess, a profession and a personal career at the same time has been tough. And lack of sleep is easily a point
Mm.
to discuss and bring up. There's definitely been an impact there, but I think. Um, the kind of feeling of when we were trying to entertain the little one, and yeah, kind of feeling like actually I'm not present. My head's not in the space where I should be right now, which is fully entertaining her, or being present at, let's say, the dinner times or anything like that. My head was elsewhere, and that's where I felt like just total numb space. It's kind of in my head. It was a
Right.
feeling of really on the top of the forehead. You could kind of feel it slash see it, and that was pretty pertinent, especially when I found
Right.
out about burnout. When I started reading about it, it was like actually you can have physical conditions and lumps in the throat and kind of bits of anxiety of kind of the dread of coming into the work or the week or so on. It's definitely physically present. And I think the other thing, that my eating habits turned extremely poor. Um,
Okay.
they were picking at food and not having good meals, but then also just snacking. The snacking just went out of control, and then subsequently my fitness. And unfortunately, I was injured at the same time, and so I recognised that was certainly some of the areas that just weren't right. I wasn't going out running. I wasn't playing sport. Yeah, I wasn't present. Certainly wasn't eating very well. So there's definitely some physical areas that I was like, actually, this doesn't make sense.
There's a vicious circle, isn't there? Because once you lose the time, then you don't make time to do the things that you know are good for you,
Yeah, exactly.
unfortunately. So
Yeah.
it seems like the turning point for you was having this conversation with this service at work, and then somebody explaining what burnout was and the symptoms describing. So what steps did you then take to get out of this process?
Yeah, there was quite a few. I think I kind of break them down into kind of 3 phases. Really, is that the first one that I had was really figure out what the position that I am in, um, and really understanding how I've got to this and recognizing that. Let's not kind of beat around the kind of verbal bush and say, hey, look, I think it was just this. Let's be really open and transparent with myself and figure out why I got to this position. Kind of reinstated what my values were, trying to really figure out what was important to me. My life had changed, both professionally and personally. Kind of family is now a huge component of my life, and that was maybe what I wasn't taking so seriously, should we say. Um, and yeah, I kind of said, actually, what am I going to do differently? I think that was kind of super clear, was trying to figure out, okay, I'm in this position. What am I going to take going forward? Do a lot of work around lessons learned in the professional side of my life, and so actually I should have been really applying those uh, to my own personal life. So, and then just about what do I need from a support function? Is it family, friends? work. And that's kind of what happened in kind of phase 2 of this process. And this wasn't a couple of days, this was weeks and months of just procrastinating, figuring out what was really important. It's kind of an acute diagnosis, but then certainly going into a stage of, okay, figuring out what this journey looks like. I think that was quite clear to me. Everybody said, hey, look, you're on a journey. This isn't going to solve itself overnight. So yeah, talking with friends, meeting up with friends, talking with my family, that was quite important, and just say, hey, look, head's not in the right space, might not be present, might not be able to come to things. That was quite clear. And then informing work, I think that was hugely important. Just the team wrapping their arms around me, kind of going, hey, look, we're in this together. We can feel your pain. You might just be feeling it a little bit more than what I am. And so that kind of went up to the most senior level, and the CEO going, hey, look, we're in this together, mate. Let's make sure we support you where we can, and try and get you out of this kind of stage of your life. But yeah, that was hugely important, was just making sure that people around me were aware of what was going on, because if not, I just felt like I was on my own and trying to figure it out myself, where in fact there was a huge support network around me, which was hugely important.
Which people often forget, because
Yeah,
when you go into burnout, you go into this kind of disengaged phase where you just, like you said, you're avoiding socializing and you don't
yeah,
want to talk to anybody. And connection's one of the most important things for us, for any of
yeah,
us. So
yeah,
vital
yeah.
steps.
And it was, I think, kind of in myself, I was kind of scared to share it with anybody, just to go like, oh, Marcus is going through some issues. No, we don't need to hear about that. Where in fact, everybody just went, come on, let's go for a beer, or let's go out for dinner, or let's catch up. You don't have to handle this on your own. And also it's the thing that really happened as surprised me was this spiral effect of people going, oh, I've been through similar,
Hmm.
or I feel similar. And I've gone, guys, why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you tell me that was going on in your life? And kind of, we're not alone is definitely what I took away from some of the conversations in this period. And then I think phase 3 was just make sure that plan's there, making sure you're recognizing that that's kind of not the end of the journey, but a continual part of the journey. And fitness also played a huge part in this. Was, hey, you need to go out, you need to go and get some space, you need to make some time for yourself. And that certainly brought me back up to speed quite quickly in terms of getting my head right. That was my escapism point from both work life and home life. Was, hey, look, just go out and run for 45 minutes and see how far you get, and then without any kind of agenda or any kind of goal in mind, was purely just get out and go running.
So it's not one thing, is it? It's a variety of steps that you've taken here. And as you say, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight in terms of a full recovery. You can make strides every day, but you've got time to get over this, or you need time to get over this. So so how are things now? I mean, what are the kind of things you continue to actually do? You've obviously done the work to realize what's important and prioritized for you. What do you actually do as your good habits day by day?
Yeah, so fitness is definitely up there. It's number one. Making sure that I kind of find the right balance between home and work. I work from home quite a bit, and I go to the office now quite a bit. Make sure those social events are in as well, making sure we've got stuff to look forward to. But I think the one thing for me is just keep on realigning back to those values that you set out for me 6 months ago. Was going, what's really important? Our family's number one. Making sure we've got time in with those individuals and friends, and work is obviously hugely important to me as my career, but yeah, I really enjoy what I do. Yeah, the business is incredible that I work for, but there has also got to be a balance, right? There's got to be a bit of give and take, and so I'm certainly making sure that I'm recognizing that point of going, hey, actually that can wait. That's not really an important point, and that can wait. And I worked out that it was probably only me putting pressure under myself or over myself during the work period. It wasn't anybody else. Nobody was having a go at me or saying, hey Marcus, you're falling behind. It was purely my own sentiment, and I recognize that, and I think I look back at the last 6 to 12 months and I go, actually I really did achieve a lot we did some amazing things, and you kind of look back at it and you go, oh, there were some really noisy bits and some bits that were a little bit painful, but stuff that we came out and achieved was incredible. And I look back at that as a really proud period of my my career, albeit challenging, for sure. And I think for me, I've come out a stronger person, recognizing that I've learned a lot about myself. And maybe we might be jumping a question here or two, but certainly the point of round making sure I've got a bit more of a routine, making sure I have got kind of realigned values, and those are important. And actually, if I am making a decision that's significant to those values, that actually they absolutely need to be at the forefront of that decision. So yeah, there's definitely check-ins that I just kind of personally make with myself as well. It's just, hey Marcus, how are you doing? Are you in a good space? Are you ticking the fitness box? Are you making time for family? Are you present? And all of those, now that I've maybe gone through some of the worst, is really easy signals for me to figure out now. Whereas before I was probably just going, hey, look, I'm stressed, got too much work on, or life's just really busy. Like, just handle it, just kind of deal with it. Whereas in fact now I've kind of taken a step back and really thinking about those points of reference for sure.
That's great. So you've been through a real arc on this journey, haven't you? The recognition, the doing something about it, and then maintaining the good habits in place and knowing what those trigger points are for you personally. And those personal check-ins are great, aren't they? Because how often do we check in with other people? How are you doing? And then never
Yeah,
ask ourselves, how am I doing? You
yeah,
know, and being
yeah.
honest, as you said, that being honest is vital.
Yeah, it's huge. I think I've got a team of plus 20 odd people, and my number one priority during that period of time was all of them.
Mm.
And kind of hopefully unselfishly, I'm hopefully my team back this up, but unselfishly making sure that they are okay and making sure that they were in a good place, or trying to figure out kind of where their problems were. In fact, I just wasn't focusing on myself. And I look back and go, actually, I could have performed way better if I got myself right first, and then
Mm.
subsequently started to focus on the team. I think me and you talked about it, was about the life vest and putting that one on first, and then
Yes,
thinking
that's
about the
it.
rest
Your
of
own
the team
oxygen
after.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right, which we always think that's a bit weird, but there's a reason for that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, okay, very good, Marcus. So finally, what advice would you give to anyone who has any kind of inkling or suspicion that there might be something a little bit wrong and they might be on the burnout journey?
Yeah, I think I've kind of made one note, but three words, and it was talk, talk, talk. I think
Mhm.
that's the main thing. I don't think that was really the strongest component. I kind of figured out throughout my journey, and recognizing there are likely people around you. You probably know the stats way more than I do, Alan, but the people that have probably gone through this, there's probably a good amount of people in your close proximity, probably to the listeners of proximity of that people have gone through similar experiences. And I think that's the main thing, is that people should start talking about this quite openly. It's obviously quite a sensitive subject, and there's people that are on different levels of scale of what's gone on, or what they're going through, but it's making sure that people are talking. And there are support functions out there, of course. We're lucky enough to have a huge amount of support network, including yourself, to the business, which was definitely a starting point for me. It was like, oh, Alan's just released a book on burnout. It was definitely the right timing for me to go and have a discussion around that. But there are so many support functions out there that are underestimated, underused, probably, because people are scared about picking up the phone or recognizing that actually they're in this stage. So yeah, talking about it is certainly the key component out there. And yeah, I think the other thing for me is just figuring out, hey, look, where are you personally? I got a load of post-it notes out virtually on the screen and said, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. How have I got here? What's really important to me right now? What do I need to get to as my kind of next milestone? And yeah, kind of figure out a bit of a plan. That plan can be as outrageous as you think it might be. It might be kind of running a marathon, or making sure you can go on holiday, or at least just getting towards an end of maybe a project goal or something like that. but having a bit of a plan that allows you to get out of it. And sometimes you can't. I found it quite hard to be able to get that headspace to go, actually, from the day to day and from this burnout stage, how do I really focus on this and make sure that it's important? But do make time for it. That's one of my recommendations. Is this is a journey for you as an individual. I'm still on that journey, very much so, but I'm very much on the peak of a really good experience, and that's been through talking through a bit of a plan and making sure I have got those values in place. So.
Well, absolutely. I think you're a marvelous case study, Marcus, because what I do like is because rather than just go for the quick fixes and solve day-to-day problems, you've gone right, you've stripped it right back, and kind of how do you rebuild, based on what's important as your foundation. I think from there, then you make the right decisions, and then it just follows. So I think this is a really, really good case study. And I really, really appreciate your time talking today. Like I said right at the start, I think it brings it to life for people like you. And as you said, we're not alone. There's so many people in this situation who aren't talking. You said it, talk, talk, talk. There's a huge support network out there. For people to help, whoever they are, whether they're professionals or friends or family, whatever. We just need to talk to someone,
Yeah,
because that's what we stop doing when we struggle with this. So, thank you so much for being with me today. Really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Best of luck, Marcus, in your ongoing journey. It is a process, as you said, and it will keep going. But you're doing great. So, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Cheers for now.